Welcome back to another edition of Parkes Fermé here at GP Fans, as Ian Parkes is once more trackside, bringing us all the latest updates from a racing weekend. And of course, it's the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. So Ian, as I can see, is once more basking in the sun, which this Sunday is a little bit frustrating for some because we were kind of hoping that there might be a chance of a spot of rain or two in the Principality. And not just a rain on your parade either, actually, because it would make the race that little bit more exciting as well.
I know, mate. We know what Monaco is like, don't we? When the sun is shining, it turns into a processional train strolling around those streets. And unfortunately, as you say, that little chance of light rain that would have just spiced things up that little bit, it looks like it's fading now. It looks like it's not going to arrive until beyond the race, unfortunately. So that means we've probably got 78 laps of watching Charles Leclerc lead away at the front. Fingers crossed for him, of course, because of the bad luck he's had at this circuit in the past. Just we know what Monaco's like. We just want that little extra something to spice things up. But qualifying was spiced up yesterday. That's all it takes is an incident like that, isn't it, Ollie?
I was going to say, we didn't have any wet weather yesterday, and it got pretty spicy on track regardless, because of course Monaco is the most treacherous circuit on the Formula One calendar in terms of the street circuit, combined with the proximity of the barriers and these new wider cars as well. The end of qualifying yesterday was absolute carnage, Ian. What's been the fallout from Sergio Perez's spin, Carlos Sainz getting frustrated and going into the Red Bull? Are we going to deal with any sort of mechanical problems like we had last year with Charles Leclerc for any of these cars? Alonso put his front nose into the barriers as well, away from that situation. Or is everything looking smooth for everybody to make the grid this morning, do you think?
Obviously, Red Bull had a bit of work to do overnight. Carlos, he felt he was fine. Yes, as we saw, he couldn't avoid the stricken Red Bull as he came round into Portier. Obviously, Checo having hit the barrier quite hard there, losing the back end of the car. So, as I say, that RB18 is going to had a few repairs needed on it overnight. Those guys have been working hard. With Carlos, he says that he sustained nothing more than a puncture on that Ferrari. So he should be good to go. Of course, remember what happened to Charles Leclerc last year in qualifying. He had a major hit. Ferrari thought they'd got the repairs sorted out overnight. And of course, there was a fault appeared on his way to the grid, and that prevented him from starting on pole position and potentially winning that race last year. So with Checo, we just got to wait and see. We know what those Red Bull cars are like. They've had their issues already this season. If something hasn't materialised from that hit, it could easily materialise during the race, of course. So just got to wait and see.
What did you make of yesterday's qualifying session, particularly with Perez outdoing Max Verstappen time and time again in those Red Bulls? It's a big response, it feels, from the Mexican driver after what happened, obviously, with the team orders in Spain a week ago.
I was asked to predict the order before the qualifying by my colleague Sam, because he was doing the blog at the time. And I went Leclerc, Perez, Sainz. I was spot on with that after Q2. That was exactly the order. And going into those last runs, of course, it was Leclerc, Sainz, Perez. Checo has been on it this weekend. He seems to have found a new lease of life. Now, we know coming out of Spain that he had these talks with Red Bull as to his position, because he was asked to give way to Max there. He didn't like it at the time. The two were on different strategies. One, Max on a 3, Checo on a 2. But in trying to facilitate his 2, he was denied an earlier request in the race to pass, which was quite a surprise. Now, he says those talks have been good. They've been positive, that he's clear to win. He's even not just Grand Prix, but he's clear to go ahead and win the title. He's only 25 points behind Max at the end of the day, which is one race win. As we know, retirement for Max, win for Checo, that advantage that Max has over Checo is obliterated. So he's still in the fight. Let's not rule him out. We all know that Red Bull is Max's team in many respects. We've seen that with his previous teammates. So hopefully Red Bull are going to play ball. Checo has absolutely delivered this weekend, and he deserved to be ahead. Theoretically, it's right. He deserved to be on the front row. Would he have got it? We don't know. We're never going to know that one. He cocked it up on that last lap, of course, last attempt. And, third place, he was bitterly unhappy. You could see that when he was doing his pen interviews Saturday evening. He was not a happy bunny, but rightly so, of course, because this was his big chance. He knew he'd got an opportunity to put that car on the front row, and he ballsed it up in many respects.
And this instead turns into Charles Leclerc's big chance to finally get the hoodoo off his back, because it's been obviously a tumultuous time with his relationship with his home Grand Prix, but he starts on the front row of the grid, pole position, and looked imperious once again yesterday.
He's been fantastic, hasn't he? As we know, 5 previous attempts at this around this circuit, twice in F2, 3 times in F1. He has never seen the checkered flag in any of those Grand Prix. And of course, if we think back not so long ago, just was it a week or 2 ago, he was in the historic Grand Prix around here, driving one of Niki Lauda's old cars, and he goes and spins it into a wall. So he does not have form. So, but you would think, given the weather situation that we discussed earlier, if it stays dry, if he's clean away off the start, this race is then his to lose.
Where else, Ian, are we looking down on this grid then? We've got the 2 Ferraris leading the pack, the 2 Red Bulls following behind. Mercedes continue to have struggles, but George Russell is still outperforming Lewis Hamilton, which is something I think needs to be talked about a little bit more than we're actually hearing at the moment, because it's a continual thing in the Mercedes duo. And then Lando Norris once more has another sensational run to put himself right up there in the mix too.
Let's start with Lando first, just doing absolutely brilliantly. It was his first written media session on Saturday evening for over a week since he'd been diagnosed with the tonsillitis. And even then, you could still see his face was visibly drained, hell of a lot better compared to a week ago when he very nearly didn't take part in that race. He conceded that himself. And what got him through, what was his saviour, as he pointed out, was the fact that he used a water bottle for the first time, which was for me, that was quite an astonishing revelation. He said when he got into Formula One, he tried it, didn't like it, and had never used it since. And if you think of some of these Grand Prix that we've visited over the years and the heat and humidity that have been prevalent in those races, for him not to have used a water bottle at any stage in any of those Grand Prix to get through them, remarkable physical feat of endurance in many respects. But last weekend in Spain, it did require that water bottle. He had to keep taking sips. And as he said, it got him through. And yesterday as well, fantastic performance again. He is outperforming the capabilities of that car. He's wiping the floor with his teammate at the moment, Daniel Ricciardo, who is just nowhere. They are chalk and cheese, those two, in terms of their performance at the moment. Daniel is safe. He's got a 3-year contract. We all know contracts can be broken, though. But as far as he's concerned, he's got that contract through to the end of next season. So he's really got him performing. He's got to get on top of whatever issues he's got with the car. Neither he nor the team are saying exactly what they are, though. So you got to think, is there something underlying here that we're not being told about? Moving further down the grid, as you say, Mercedes, they've still got this bouncing issue. Spoke to George last night in the written media pen. I asked him whether he was expecting to be in pain again, given what he had experienced before with back and chest pains due to the porpoising of the car. Now, as you and I discussed pre-qualifying on Saturday, Ollie, it's not porpoising that's the problem with that car this time. It's simply the stiffness of this Mercedes in tandem with the bumpiness of the Monaco public roads that's ensuring that both George and Lewis are having major problems with the bouncing. So he's expecting to be in quite some physical difficulty come the end of today's race. So, but he's still in a good position, and he's in that kind of position where you feel he can take advantage of something if there is something untoward happens ahead, if there's an incident, a crash or anything like that.
It'd be interesting to see if George Russell can capitalise and continue his top 5 finishes in 2022 for Mercedes. Ian, thanks always for joining us, mate. Enjoy the race around the Principality, and we look forward to following you on gpfans.com and across social media as well on GPFans Global, mate. Have a good racing Sunday.
Thanks, Ollie. Thanks for watching, folks. Enjoy the Grand Prix.